Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 12 of the NFP podcast presented by 3D Entertainment. The NFP podcast is brought to you by Sneaky Weasel Lager and Hey Al Southern Iced Teas, the official alcohol sponsors of the show. What's up, everybody? The week of February 15th, we're back in action. We're live. Once again with me today, Mr. Jason Davidson. Jason, how are you, bud?
Doing good, buddy. Doing good. Just enjoying this fresh air out here in the wilderness and the Water Valley, Alberta area today.
Nice. That's cool. Well, the weather seems to be the common thread right now all over the world, not just here in Canada, but across the US as well. It looks like there's a polar vortex going on. If you don't know if you noticed or not, but day 2 of Del Rio this weekend was canceled due to weather. So Texas is not known for, especially southern Texas, not known for being cold and miserable. But when it does get cold, I've been there and it's like a wet cold when it's really cold. And
right through you cold. Yeah. Like right through you. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So they canceled it.
The Dixie and San Antonio. They actually, I was watching the Extreme Bulls on Sunday and they said it right during the performance that they're going to postpone one and make it up the next week. Del Rio did the same with the PBR.
Yep.
And the Dixie National in, I think that's in Mississippi somewhere, correct?
Yep.
Canceled it too. The same.
Yeah. It looks bad.
They just postponed a performance. I saw Dakota Lewis, one of our PBR bull riders, made a tweet or a post on Instagram that all the flights out of San Antonio were canceled. Every single one of them. They weren't going anywhere anyway.
It's all shut down.
So much for riding bulls in the heat of South Texas.
Oh shit! Yeah, yeah. The NFP page had a tweet that the first day it looked like a Carl Barrett bull riding in McCord, Saskatchewan on New Year's. All the guys were fucking bundled up and freezing cold. Get a fucking fire going behind the bucket.
I noticed watching San Antonio rider and Stetson Wright were up the first 2 performances, and everybody was wearing gloves and hoodie. I think somebody actually got on in the bull riding in a hoodie.
Oh yeah, it's kind of funny when it is like shitty weather, like even when it's like when you're rodeoing and it's pouring rain out, everybody's give a fuck just goes down the drain, and you'll see guys hoodies and just fucking don't want to. You don't want to be there, right?
No, and that's where the PBR has always been. They're in arenas. You never had to worry about what was going on outside. You get spoiled. But looking at our schedule, are we going to have to try and get outside and deal with the elements in the late summer, fall? I don't know that yet, but it's a possibility. It definitely is.
Yeah, fucking A. Well, I'm ready to roll wherever we can go, and I'm sure everybody up here in Canada is the same. Where rain or shine, everybody's ready to get back to work, so we're good to go in that sense. I think help support.
Yeah. What have you been up to there in the North Country? Just trying to stay warm, keeping water bowls going?
Yeah, man, it's been cool. It hasn't really broke at all. It's still been for like a week and a half now. It's been close to that minus 40, minus 45 mark the whole time. So really just trying to keep all the animals alive and warm and water bowls going. And it's just a crazy time of year. I've never really been home, like at this time of year. Either we're on vacation somewhere, but riding and stuff. This was always the first half of the Unleash the Beast or the Built Fort Tough series. So, just been usually just across the US where right now it's cold, but usually it's the weather's really nice down there. So really taking in the elements for the first time in my life for a long time. So yeah, it's not the funnest of places.
I don't think I'm going to feel real bad for you here, Tanner. This is the first time you've actually had to put on some long underwear in the history of your lifetime, huh?
Yeah,
exactly. You must be missing Maui, your annual Maui trip.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be on the fucking golf course right now.
You can try it at catchers there. Just make sure
exactly.
Make sure you don't use the white balls though, because you're gonna have a hell of a time finding.
Yeah. Oh, that's no shit. But even though Even though Del Rio, the second day got canceled, like we talked, they're gonna make that up. I think this weekend in Pecos, Texas. It's scheduled for Saturday, Sunday, but on Friday they're gonna get everybody there and have the second day, which would have been of Del Rio. So they're gonna try to finish the event off this Friday and then move into the scheduled event in Pecos, Texas, Saturday, Sunday once again. So
Well,
try to make up for that.
There's the PBR doing what they do, just moving mountains. You got to appreciate them.
Mountains, yeah. They did
moving snow to get back on the mountain.
Yeah, and hopefully it clears up down there because there's videos of Cord McCoy and HD Page and all those guys trying to haul those bulls around, and they're not used to snow and icy roads and any of that down there, and not equipped for it. Being down there in some of those storms, it's everything shuts down, right? And we're kind of not spoiled to it. We're just used to fucking living in this shit. But when that
we can adapt.
Yeah.
We can adapt real easy. Yeah, it can be an awful storm. And with the 19 years we've been there, I'd say there's been three different times in Lethbridge where it was a bit of a challenge to get home. But that one year I was 13 hours driving home. I remember.
Yeah. Grand Prairie, PBR Canada finals last year.
Well, how would you know? You probably slept all the way home. Anyway.
Yeah, I might have done that. Yeah, but every time I opened my eyes and looked up through the windshield, it looked like it was bad. It looked like it was bad weather.
Every time I woke up and looked up.
Oh fuck! Our boy though, Cooper Davis gets the old NFP podcast bump. Comes on the show during the week. Steps into the weekend, wins himself a 15-15. So we won't take full credit for it.
Yeah,
but the credit's definitely there.
We'll take some. We're gonna take some. Are you gonna let me? Are you gonna let me trade my pick?
No.
We don't have trades, eh?
No, fuck no trades. But yeah.
What if I wrote a check to the Posabon Foundation?
Now that we could talk.
Huh? We could talk then. Okay, we better wait. We better wait for Scott then too. He might want to change his, and then it'll go to the highest bidder.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. I might have to change my bull though after last weekend. Riding solo is in the 15-15 as well, and had a bad out. Kind of hipped himself and hit his head. Did you see it?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh man. Like, when a bull turns back too close to the bucking chutes and they hit their head and it kind of messes them up. Well, I mean, messed him up. Oh yeah, like hit it and like stopped him, and he like took a couple steps backwards. Like, yeah. Hopefully he's okay.
He might need some time off.
Yeah, that's the thing. He needs some time off, and I don't know. Like, if it was me, I probably wouldn't want to be turning back like that. That could mess with him.
Tandy's going to have him in concussion protocol for a couple of weeks, so he's going to have to stay in the feed pen.
Yeah, hopefully though. And he's been hauled pretty hard, to start the year off. So I think he'll be all right for a break, but we'll see what Cord does.
So I didn't get to watch the 15-15. What was the top bull?
How come you couldn't watch 15-15? Because CBS puts on fucking Doctor Who's fucking medical alerts over top of the broadcast. Have you seen that?
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh my God. The last 3 weeks I've tried to tune into the 15-15. It's been recorded on my PVR, get ready to go. And it's fucking, Doctor Who's. It's like a paid program every time. Like, why the fuck? What? I don't understand how that can happen, but yeah, so that's fun for everybody in Canada.
I guess that's where we rank in PBR in Canada with CBS.
That's brutal. That's so brutal. Yeah, but no, so I didn't get to watch it, the actual broadcast as well. Just try to go back and go through the results. But the high mark bull was the one that we all overlooked. Chiseled 46.5 in the 15-15 and fired.
Lots of time. He
fired. Your bull though. Your bull makes his debut. Whoopa with Colton Fritzland, 45 points. I'll
take it. Yeah, I'll take it. Solid.
First one back. And you're probably going to be really happy with the matchup this weekend in Pecos, Texas, the 15-15. Cooper Davis, Whoopa.
See, that's what we better get Scott on here sooner than later, so we can get this trade worked out if we can or not. Yeah, the stars are lining up.
Yeah, that's
Hey, how about this week? Lots of response on the podcast, positive stuff, some retweets by some pretty famous people. That was cool.
Yeah, I had Larry the Cable Guy chiming in there. All the boys seem to be getting behind it. So yeah, it's good
I
to
got
good to
I
see.
got some messages. I got a message from New Zealand
Yep.
from a guy that was over here, back in the 90s, I think it was, playing fastball Tuesday. Shaunavon always kicked off the East run for the Canadian Professional Rodeo Association. So I don't know, we must have been bullshitting in the beer gardens on Sunday. And I said I had to go to Shaunavon, and he's like, well, could I come? And I'm like, sure, jump in.
The fucking metropolis of Shaunavon.
Oh my, I remember taking James Northey there one year on his permit, and we came from Dwayne and Vicky. Well, it was Big Valley now, right? Yeah. During the country concert. But one year it was called Stage 13. It was a rock concert, like Nickelback, and I think the headliner was The Hip, actually.
Fuck.
Anyway, we got up Monday morning,
and that's the Big Valley Jamboree now, the country music one now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how was that? How was it when it was a rock concert?
We had like the Mardi Gras beads for the Sunday performance, which it was at 10 in the morning. So you get up back in those days.
Oh, you're still up.
Yeah, or you're still up, You do the perf, and we had these Mardi Gras beads, and I've never seen anything like it. I had a handful around my neck, and you just walk over to the stands, and you know the deal with the beads. So that was an interesting morning.
Yeah.
And then, you get through it, and it was hot and dry, and that arena was deep and sandy. And I remember I took a pretty good mauling by one of Kelly Armstrong's bulls that morning. So I got into the Bud Lights, and we went to the concert, obviously, Nickelback, then Tragically Hip. Yeah. And then you have a few drinks back at the camp. The next morning, we got to drive to Shaunavon for the rodeo. And James was coming to work on this permit with me. And we got there, and it was a way longer drive than I anticipated. And I remember walking in the arena, and I said, James, this will be your rodeo next year, because I'm never coming back. Yeah. And I never did. That was the last one.
Fucking done. Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Done.
Oh, that's good. Speaking of giving her and fucking partying pretty hard, did you see Tom Brady after the
oh yeah, who hasn't seen him? That's gone viral.
That is awesome. Yeah, that was fucking good. Everybody was thinking it'd be Gronk, and then all of a sudden here comes Brady, just fucking mangled.
How about the all-time pass of the Lombardi Trophy from one boat to the other, Brady to Gronk?
Yeah,
I don't know why anybody's worried, as if the Gronk was going to drop it.
The ultimate no fucks given.
Yeah, and as if Brady's going to miss that pass. Come on. Yeah, good for them. Good for them. Florida's had they had the Stanley Cup boat parade, and then and now the Bucks have theirs. Did their baseball team win the World Series too?
No, they went to the finals, I think, though.
They went to the final, just about a triple crown. What a story from that state.
Because everybody wants to fucking go there and play. No tax. Fucking beautiful place to live.
No masks.
No masks. No rules. Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of getting shit-faced and having a good time, we'll get into an ad read. Sneaky Weasel.
Good deal. Let's hear it.
If you're looking for a smooth, refreshing beer this weekend, grab yourself a Sneaky Weasel Craft Lager. This mildly hopped craft lager delivers a bold 5.6 ABV, but goes down crisp and clean. This beer pairs well with any bull riding celebration, fun in the sun, and good times with friends. This beer is available all across Western Canada. Sneaky Weasel Lager, the official beer sponsor of the NFP podcast. Boom.
Boom.
Chase Outlaw's back. He had a video of him getting on a practice bull. He didn't go to Del Rio. Must be trying to make sure that shoulder's good after 5 or 6 shoulder surgeries. He told me that he was going to be back in Longview a couple weeks ago, which is not this weekend, but next weekend. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. He ended up top 10 in Texarkana last weekend at the Touring Pro. And we'll see if he's in Pecos this weekend or if he does wait till Longview. But I think he's just trying to take that slow and make sure everything's good before he gets back to the highest level. But that's going to be cool to see that wild man back in action.
Yeah, well, when you talk about there's maybe 10 or 12 guys that can ride the rank ones. He's one of them. So
Damn
I
right.
think he'll be welcome back with open arms. Hey, Texarkana, what about our Canadian Logan
Logan
Beaver?
Beaver. Yeah. Fucking
Sixth
right.
place finish. Thanks,
Yeah.
Casey keeps us updated. She sent the press release. That's good.
Yep. No, that's
Um,
great.
yeah, we might have to check in with him and see what's going on, see what he's been doing in between events. We'll have to reach out to him.
Yeah, where he's staying and what he's up to, how he's doing it. But it's so good to see because he's 9 points away from the top 30, which if you get near that top 40 with injuries, with everything else that goes on at the highest level, if you're in that top 40, you have a pretty good chance of getting on, getting an event or two and getting that opportunity to ride with the best in the world and set yourself up great for the season. So it's been a sacrifice for Logan to go down there and do that. But look, it's fucking proofs in the pudding. It pays off. You fucking put in
Yeah,
the time, you put in the effort, you go and yeah, it's scary as a young Canadian guy. You're on your own and in a different world, and all the different stuff that goes on with riding and living in the US compared to Canada. But when it pays off, it feels fucking good. So it's
yeah,
so good to see. Very proud of that young guy, and fucking you watch, he's gonna roll and set himself up great, and that just shoots your career. It's crazy how a couple rides, even you get to that level and you stay on a few, that confidence that you find in yourself that you didn't know was there sticks, and then you
yeah.
you're a bad motherfucker and you can take on anything that there is. So really good to see. I'm really, really proud of Logan Beaver for doing that.
Well, yeah, and like because you can't win here. There's no events, so I'm with you on that. I got a lot of respect for the young man for getting down there and entering up. Jordan Hanson made his debut on Sunday as well last week. San Antonio Extreme Bulls. I watched that. Um, but boy, I think he should have stayed on. He had a bull that would have just got him back in the top 8 if he'd have stayed on.
Yep.
I don't know if he'd been on any practice bulls, but I think that's a bull Jordan wishes he had back for sure. Found the bulls really inconsistent.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Sage, I think Sage was 86. Somebody was 87. I think that's what won the long round, 87 and a half. But Stetson, my boy Stetson Wright, 79 and a half, just not enough, like,
Yeah, not
practice
enough
bull.
bull. Yep.
Yeah, just practice bull. So that's unfortunate, especially when, that counts towards the world title. And that's why we always try to make sure our guys have a fair chance to win. I remember at one point, yeah, this would be a few years back, I told the riders, if you don't make the championship round at one of my events, you get your fees back. And
Yep.
I think I only ever had to pay it out maybe 3 times,
Yep.
because we just get to that 10 or have 9 guys and bring one back on time.
Yep.
But it's unfortunate when you do your job in a sport that you pay your way to get to, that you don't, you still donate in those entry fees,
Yeah.
or you're putting that time to get in there and there's no return on your investment.
That's a good point that you brought up, that a lot of people maybe don't really fully understand, that maybe aren't as in tune with the bull riding or rodeo world. All these competitors are paying to fucking do this. So even at the Unleash the Beast series, once you get to the top 30, you get oh, you know what? Actually, you used to get a show up check. I noticed this too. Now you don't get a show up check for being there. You used to get like a $400 show up check at the Unleash the Beast events, and I think they took that away now. But at least you don't have to pay a fee, I guess. But at the touring pro events, like
Yeah, you pay an
even the
entry fee.
velocity events, you're paying an entry fee. So you're paying a couple $100 in an entry fee to get on that bull. Same as at a rodeo, you're paying an entry fee every time that you show up. So you're paying your own gas, your own flights, your own feed, food, everything. Like you're in deep. So when you see these guys giving it all they have, there's a reason, because they work their asses off all week so that they can go and spend that fucking money to
Yeah.
try to ride a bull and
It,
move their way up in the world.
I don't think any of our novice listeners are going to be scratching their head on that one. You mean they have to pay their own money to go tie their hand to one of those things?
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
literally one of the reasons I chose to fight bulls, to
Yeah.
be a rodeo bullfighter. I remember Skip Kelleher, that's who I worked for on my own for the very first time. Saskatchewan guy, was a real good friend of our families and produced rodeos for years and years. Your dad worked for Skip, you know.
Yep.
And I remember him telling me what his bullfighter at the time, Shane Earhart, made a weekend. And I'm like, really? And he gets to stay at one place, right? Sometimes you get a free hotel room. And like back then, I think it was $250 cash a performance, so $500. I'm like, shit, that's my angle right there.
Yeah,
So that was one of seriously, I remember that. I was just like, well, I guess if I'm going to do this for a living, that's probably the safest bet right there.
Yeah,
like, you know.
Yeah, it's different, man. It's you know, even talking to lots of you know, different guys outside of the sport, that was one thing that really blew their mind, was that it's still, you still pay to play, which the money goes into the prize money at the rodeos and portions of it, you know, and the bull riding side of it. So
you're just stealing your buddy's
you're just
money.
fucking taking your buddy's money. Yeah, exactly. But
yeah, they could have a game. They could have a game of poker beforehand. Everybody ante up their $400 show up checks and see who can walk away with the money. It's a little safer.
Yeah, no shit. But yeah, no, it's good to see, and it's good. Back to Logan Beaver on that side of it too, and you know, there's guys like I talked to Jake Gardner last week, and he's working right now. Same thing. It is pay to play, so you have to have money. You have to have your cash flow saved up, because you can't just go down there broke. So he's getting a bunch of work in right now, getting cashed up, and then he's heading down there and going hard at it. So I know there's going to be lots of guys like that are working through these winter months right now and going to it. But it's just that, you know, that mindset that a lot of guys have that need to break of, you know, always just staying up here and this is the safest place. You know, I've always said it for, you know, since I started, I'd rather be a small fish in a big pond than a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
You know, there's guys that you guys got to take your goals to the next level, I think, and not think small. And I know Jake's feeling that way of going to the World Finals. There was a Facebook post the other day of Jake at the Global Cup, and it was I think it was Tanner Gerlitz put career defining moment for Jake, and you know, I was like, no, Jake is gonna do so much bigger things than what he did there. You know, the world's his fucking oyster, and as far as he wants to go is how far he wants to go. You know, you can't think. When we were talking with Cooper, that was what we were talking about, how when he won the world title, it opened all of our eyes up, that it was like, holy shit, one of us actually can
do this.
Do that. And he had the same mindset as all of us, right? We didn't actually think that was really attainable until you get to those positions and your back's up against the wall, and all of a sudden you come out on top. You know, that gives everybody around you the confidence that they can do it too. So I think you'll see these guys and Jake, and you know, there's Nick Tetz and all these young guys up here in Canada that have all the talent in the world that are going to go down there and show what they got. And I'm really, really happy, and I got their fucking back, because you got to go. You got to give it everything you have. At the end of the day, bull riding is going to be done, and all you're going to have left is what you did and those memories, and you're not going to want to look back and say, I should have fucking just at least tried it. Should have fucking went, right? Because you know, there's no proof that you can't do it. Go and fucking do it.
Well, and Jake is the perfect example. When we started putting the 3D bull riding team together, and who we were gonna, you know, who was marketable and who's the young guns and who's got that fire burning, you know, well, you can attest to it. You know how high I was on Jake Gardner. You know, and you mentioned another good name with Nick Tetz. There's a guy that has so much talent. You know, Coy Robbins is, you know, everybody had high expectations, and obviously he had some injuries. So it's going to be real interesting to see how he comes back here in 2021 when we get it going. And you know, another kid that and it'll be interesting to see what these guys decide to do with their careers, how they can manage PBR and Canadian rodeo. But it's Tanner Eno, kind of blew onto the scene, you know, had some bulls that fit him, made some bull rides that, you know, opened some guys' eyes up. There's another kid. It'll be interesting to see where he goes too. So I just wish we could go see him go. I just want to see him go somewhere in Canada.
Yeah, that's right. Me too. Yeah. Yeah, no, fair warning to all young bull riders, and I've talked about it a few times, but the business side of things, that money when you're done, it's gonna be gone anyway. So you're gonna have to get a fucking job after you're done riding bulls, as much as you are. JB Mooney's gonna have to find some work, and he's the richest one there is. So take some pride in it. Go as hard as you fucking can, and try to be the best that you can, because at the end of the day, when you're an old man sitting in your bed, you're going to look back and know that you gave it everything you fucking had. And that's really all that's going to matter. If you can look yourself in the mirror and know you gave it everything you had, at the end of the day, I feel like that's all that really matters. And I tried to live my career like that. And, there's times I wish that I would have done different things, or picked the rankest bull in the pen and all that stuff, instead of trying to play it safe, because it's all there. At the end of the day, that's all you got left is those memories and those times. And being a bad motherfucker, and JB can attest to that in his podcast, right? It was just, he wanted to do it his way, and he can live with that for the rest of his life, knowing that he did it exactly the way he wanted to do it.
Well, and talk about two totally different personalities, and both been guests on the pod. JB and Cooper, they're both going to do it their way, but different paths, right?
Yep.
And either of them will have any regrets when it's done. I can go and tell you, our audience, that right now, JB Mooney and Cooper Davis are going to retire someday with zero regrets. Mm-hmm. That's how I see it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. That's good. Our guest today is a pretty cool cat as well, that seen JB right from the start of his career, and kind of came around when McBride and JW Hart and all those guys, when the PBR was coming to fruition, really, took it to the next level with his writing and his everything that he was able to do. He was pretty cool. And that's Keith Ryan Cartwright.
Yeah, his storytelling. I think I read on his website, and I encourage everybody to go check out KeithRyanCartwright.com, go to his about, and check out the people that he has interviewed over the years, from former presidents to, our friend Curtis Lasician, Justin McBride, Aerosmith, Motley Crue, like you name it. Like it's the list is very, very impressive. It's everybody. Just a salt of the earth dude, man. Like, I've had the pleasure of bullshitting with him on the phone and in person a number of times over the years. And there's always, if it's not a Playboy Mansion story, it's traveling with poison. It's his relationship with the Steiner family, which I didn't know that until we visited just prior to the podcast, which is very interesting. And he's like, yeah, you need Bobby Steiner, boys, on the pod. You let me know, I'll get it set up. How cool would that be? And we'll definitely take him up on that. But he's an interesting guy. I'll give him that. And he's a passionate guy towards the sport. He's currently working on a book about Black Cowboys that I know he's very, very proud of, and I can't wait to read it. I know it features your dad in it, which is kind of cool. Yep. And I'm going to roll it back to when Aaron Roy got hurt real bad and broke his back there at Calgary Stampede. Keith phoned me within days. I think I was still in Calgary when he reached out to me, and then they started doing all the auction stuff. And Keith was very very in tune with donating things. I remember I bought an autographed Yankees jersey. Like, he cared about the guys. Like, he said, this isn't about a bull rider being hurt. This is about a really good guy named Aaron Roy. Hope he can recover and live a normal life. And now we fast forwarded 7 years later. He's actually broke a femur since then, and still won and crossed $1 million in earnings. So cool dude. Like, you never judge a book by its cover, no pun intended. But when you first meet Keith, you think he's almost not very approachable, because he just didn't look like he fit the part. And wow, what a miss. You can't judge a book by its cover, because he dove right in. And he'll tell us a good cleat story too, I'm sure.
Good, right. Yeah, great guy all around, right? And when I first came into the Built Ford Tough series, he was right at the end of his career before Justin Falesko. For those of you that kind of follow the PBR now. Keith was kind of the OG Falesko. So the writer and you know, kept everybody up to date on what was going on in the PBR. So when I came in, he was kind of nearing the end of his time with the PBR. But I remember heading back to the hotels and sitting in the lobby bars, and I'd be, you know, smashing beers, me and Posy and Zayner and, you know, a few of us, and he'd always come over and you know, it always was a new story, and he knew how much I was a rock and roll fanatic, and he always had a different rock and roll story of this band or this guy, and it just blow my fucking mind every time.
I know,
pretty cool. Hey, yeah.
Really, an hour and 10 minutes with him it's not enough. You know, we only got so much time on the pod. You know, you could do a 7-hour pod. Like if you ever had, like, the next time we got to drive to Grand Prairie, that would be the ideal time to throw in the Keith Ryan Cartwright pod. Yeah, exactly. Because he just goes story, you know, and you know, naturally his background as a writer, he's a very good storyteller. Like, details. When he tells you one, you're there. Like, you're there. Like, you're having a puff on the pipe with Hugh, you know, and a stogie, you know.
Fucking right. Oh, that's good. Okay, we should get to that interview really quick, but I got to get your pick for this weekend. Who do you think's going to take it? Pecos, Texas. I'm giving you fucking first pick, but you got.
Yeah, I know you are. I appreciate that. I'm gonna go with Cooper. He's on a roll. You know what? He wasn't real high on that bull he had in 15-15. He told us that, you know,
last weekend. Bucked him off in 2 seconds, and then he talked about it, how he likes that, because then, you know, all the other guys would be like, oh fuck, that thing hammerjacked me last time. There's no way. He doesn't fit my style. He doesn't have any excuses. He fucking gets the job done, and that was proof right there. He told us on Wednesday or Thursday.
He did it on Friday. Yeah. No, you got to go with the hot hand. That isn't even a fair pick. Sorry, man. But
I know. Yeah, that'd be right, because we all.
I'm not bullshitting. I want, if any of the young bull riders that are tuning into this haven't heard the Cooper Davis broadcast on the podcast, you got to go back and listen to it. I'm a huge fan of the broadcast podcast. Well, sure, it's broadcast. Look at
we're broadcasting right now, man. Yeah. I'm going Colton Fritzland on Chiseled. I think that's fucking salty too. So that 15-15, we probably won't get to fucking watch it in Canada again, because Doctor Who's fucking magic healer will be on again, the paid program. But hopefully we'll get to see it. But
I think Casey's working that event this weekend, so we're golden. We just got to send her a text. Yeah, perfect. Tell her to let her 2 favorite Canadians know what's going on.
Perfect. I do want to do a little preview for next week's show. We're going to do our, we'll call it our first hashtag bullfighting cowboy protection episode. We got Jesse Byrne coming on.
Nice. Shit, yeah. Is Scott going to be on that one with us?
Yeah. Scott's going to be back. So it'll be the 4 of us. And it'll be good, because everybody's been reaching out and wondering where the fuck Jesse's at. He hasn't been down to those events with everything going on with the border and all this sort of stuff. So it'll be good to hear from him, see where he's at and what he's got going on. I'm looking forward to pick his brain. And as you know, Jason, he's got one of the wildest stories of probably anyone we know. So it's going to be cool to hear from him.
Yeah. Well, both you boys, I've known you since you were filling your diaper that's how old you were when I knew you. So
still am.
just some mornings, eh? But anyway, it's been pretty awesome to see Jesse's career, and of course yours as well. But you know, Jesse's been. It'll be fun. I've got to get digging into the memory bank on a few research. Stories.
Yeah,
exactly. Because some of the best stories definitely aren't going to be built for tough stories.
No, mine as well. So yeah, looking forward to that one next week. So right now, with that, we're going to throw it to our interview with the man, Keith Ryan Cartwright. Our guest today is a journalist, advocate for public education, libraries, and independent bookstores. He's interviewed a former president, 2 Nobel what is that? How do you say that? Laureates? Fortune 500 executives, Grammy, Oscar, Emmy, Tony, and Pulitzer Prize winners, members of the Rock and Roll and Country Music Hall of Fame, Olympic athletes, and so much more. I met him as the original senior writer and editorial director of the PBR, our friend Keith Ryan Cartwright. Keith, how you doing today?
I'm great. I just thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for helping me with laureates. Thank you for helping me with that in your intro. You had to help me, but I appreciate that very much.
You left out Pamela Anderson.
Oh, dude, there's so many. We're getting there.
I know, but if you're gonna throw president in there, how do you not say Pam Anderson?
That's fair. That's
right.
Fair. That's fair. Okay, Keith, I want to get to it. I want to get to we covered that you went to the PBR, but before you went to the PBR, I want to go back to your early years growing up in Wisconsin. 8 years old, you get your first typewriter. It must have hit from there. How does a guy like you from Wisconsin end up in LA? How did you get in this journalist world, and how did this all begin for you?
Yeah, well, I started writing before I moved to LA. Actually, my cousin, he's 4 years older than me. He was in a band.
Steve Rochelle.
He was in Tough. His name's Stevie Rochelle.
Yeah.
And before that, even he was like a semi-pro skateboarder and he moved away to Florida. He was about to turn pro, and right about then he decided to come back to Wisconsin, and he started playing in bands, and so he started doing that. And I thought, if he can do that, I can certainly do something in music. And I started renting the VFW hall on a Friday night, not every Friday night, but 3-4 times a year. I would rent the VFW hall, and then I would put a show on with 4 bands. And so my headliner would come from Chicago, Milwaukee, or Minneapolis. And then I would get a second tier band from like Green Bay or somewhere like that. And then in my hometown of Oshkosh, we had 2 big public high schools. And then the 2 bands that opened up the show and they played for free would be one from each high school. So I would get free advertisement to the high school.
Oh yeah, good thinking.
That meant I also never ever produced a show like that in the summertime. And I never had a show on a Saturday night, because too much shit can happen between
Friday at 3:30
out on Friday and o'clock when you want them to start showing up on Saturday. And so we'd do them on Friday nights, and it was only during school, and we would do really well. And then I thought, man, I wonder if I could maybe even double my attendance if I got some publicity outside of the area, like throughout all of Northeast Wisconsin. And that's when I stumbled across the Weekly Entertainment magazine, and I just reached out to them. And this was the day before caller ID and all that stuff, so I didn't really tell them who I was.
Yeah.
I just told them I wanted to write, and then they told me what it was going to take. And I thought, whew, I've never written before, and they want to see a writing sample. So then one town away, there was a community college that had a newspaper. And so I contacted the newspaper at the community college. I never told them I was a student, but they just assumed that I went to school there. And I was able to write 4 music articles before they realized that I would go not. And the only
then you got what you needed, right?
I got lucky. I had 4 shitty articles, and I just eliminated the shittiest of the 4, and I sent in the other 3, and it was good enough to get hired to write for Night Sights and Sounds. And the first article I wrote about was an article previewing my show. Only nowhere, and I knew at that time, nowhere in the advertisement did it have my name. So I never told them, hey, I'm previewing my own show, but I previewed my own show.
Running the table.
Yeah.
You sound like the kid from Almost Famous. Just fucking.
Kind of. And then I did that for like a year, and I had some real clips, and I was interviewing, Quiet Riot and Henry Lee Summer and just a bunch of bands that were coming, Don Dokken. So I started to do that, and then after a year, my cousin he was in Los Angeles. His band had a deal. They were on Atlantic, and so I made plans to move to Los Angeles, and I moved into the band house, which was affectionately known as the Tough Muff Mansion.
Now, okay, so you've probably watched The Dirt on Netflix, right, Keith?
The what?
Have you watched The Dirt based off of the novel by? Okay,
yeah.
So was your band house anything like Tommy, Mick, Nicky's?
It was clean.
And Vince. It was cleaner.
Ours was cleaner. Ours was very. My mom and dad came to visit one time and remarked how clean it was. But yeah, so no. Ours. So I will tell you though, it was a 4-bedroom house, and we emptied the tool shed in the backyard and turned it into a 5th bedroom. And when I moved in, I was the 13th guy. I moved in on September 5th, 1992, and that night. So, and this is really indicative of, like, I had never been on my own, I had gone down to Florida for a little bit and lived, but when I got to Los Angeles, I naively arrived, not thinking I was alone. I mean, I was moving into my cousin's house, right? So I was going to have him. And when I moved in, I was the 13th guy. So I thought, I have 12 immediate friends in this big city, but really you're on your own. So I landed, and he was supposed to pick me up at the airport at like 10 o'clock, but it turned out he had work or something to do that day, and told 2 other roommates, one of which happened to have a car that day, go pick my cousin up at LAX. Man, this is 1992. There are no cell phones.
Yeah.
I did not have enough quarters in my pocket to call the payphone. But even if I would have called the number because everyone had their own phone in a house like that. You didn't have a joint bit phone,
Yeah.
And so I was stuck at the airport, man. Nobody came to get me. And I had an address on a piece. Now, in hindsight, our house is probably 40 miles from the airport. And I mean, it would have been a hellacious taxi bill. But I just thought, I'm going to sit here, and eventually they're going to remember that they forgot me.
Yeah.
And sure enough, about a little before 1 o'clock, 2 guys, all glammed out. I mean,
like ready to go to the whiskey, ready to go to the rainbow and the whiskey.
Yeah. Well, they were coconut teaser people, but they were very much rainbow regulars. I mean, but the one had a foot tall pink mohawk, and it was purple mohawk at that time, actually. And I mean, they were full glammed out, and they looked pretty hungover. And I don't know, I wasn't a very aggressive person at that point. And I don't know why, but the first thing out of my mouth was, "Oh man, it's about time you guys got here." I don't know why I said that.
Just pissed them off right off the hop.
Oh yeah. And the one guy whose name is Jackie Suicide, he looked at me, and the first thing out of his mouth was, "Bitch, you ought to be glad we even came and got you."
Yeah. That's like rolling into the boat ride locker room and fucking just being overly confident. "What's up, fellas? How is it?" Shut the fuck up.
They drove me to the house, and then I had no idea, but one of the roommates, Billy, that day, it was a Saturday, it was his birthday, and so they were throwing a birthday party. Man, I tell you,
that's when you woke up to what goes on.
There must have been 100 people at the party. It was like 2 kegs in the backyard, booze everywhere. It was 75 people easy, maybe at one point pushing 100. It was the biggest party we had at the house. None of them matched that after that. And like, not Vince, but all the, not Vince or Steve Stevens, but the other the other three guys in the Vince Neil band, they were all at the party. Like, there's a bunch of rock and roll dude. Like, everybody was there, and I was just like dumbfounded. I thought, man, why did I wait? Why haven't I been here? You know, and it was so crazy that on Sunday, so the other guys in the house, so two picked me up, so they knew I was the new guy.
Yep.
My cousin knew I was the new guy, right? But there's 9 other guys in the house, and the next day, that evening on Sunday night, I didn't know who everyone was either, and I was starting to panic. Like, some of these guys are going to start talking to me, and I'm not sure how to keep all their names straight. Like, it's crazy. You move into a house, you have so many roommates.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
And they likewise, they weren't sure because there was another guy in the house who it turns out wasn't one of the roommates, but he was the one that I befriended before anyone else. And his name was Weasel. And so Weasel was like super friendly to me and really inviting. And come to find out, he was being really cool to me because he thought if I befriend one of the guys in the house, I can just stay.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until like Tuesday that 3 of the guys took the 2 of us and cornered us in the living room and said, which one of you actually moved into the house this weekend? And I was like, what? Me? And they looked at the other guy and they're like, who the fuck are you?
What was rent back then, do you think, Keith? You remember?
My rent? Oh,
Yeah,
I remember exactly. Yeah. It was I only paid $150. I didn't even have a bedroom or a bed or anything. I was in the living room. There were about 5 of us that lived in the living room. And so my cousin said, I'll bill you a flat. It's $5 a day, the same rate it would be to go to a hostel, like down in Venice or something. So I paid $5 a day to have a house, and I didn't have a bedroom. I had what would have been the linen closet in the hallway. That's like anything I had to fit in the linen closet. And then we had 3 couches in the living room. And I got lucky because one of the guys who was living in the house had to move back to Montreal. A bunch of the guys in the house are all from Canada. Huh. And one of them had to go back.
Cool guys then.
Yeah.
Real cool guys.
Obviously.
Some of them are the ones I'm the closest to now.
Oh, cool.
And one had to go back to Montreal. His dad got sick and he had to help with their family restaurant. And he's the one who ended up he moved back and he became a movie producer. And so he's the one who formed One Race Productions with Vin Diesel, and they made all those Vin Diesel movies together.
Holy shit.
He had been living on
Fast and Furious and stuff?
Yeah.
He did the first Fast and Furious.
Holy shit.
So you moved down there. You're in that house for 4 years. Is it in that 4-year period the Mickey Rourke story comes about?
Oh, almost. Yeah. Like within a year, the Mickey Rourke story happened. So we were, man, you're in your 20s, you're living in a house, you're broke. And so my cousin and I kind of came up with this scam. And what we would do is we'd get in his car and we would drive around the west end of the San Fernando Valley. And we'd be like, oh man, that looks like a cool place to eat. I would call up and I would ask for the manager. And then the manager would get on the phone and say, yeah, this is, Tanner, how can I help you? And I would say, hey, Tanner, my name is Keith. I'm one of the assistants. I work with Mickey Rourke, actor. You might have heard of him. They'd be like, oh yeah. Well, a couple of days ago, Mr. Rourke was entertaining some business guests, and they happened to stop in your establishment for lunch. And he's Mickey Rourke. He's not going to make a scene in a restaurant, much less in front of these people. But they had an issue with the order. I feel bad. I just wanted to let you know that, he's mentioned it again now, 48 hours later. So I just thought I would call, and they'd be like, man, we really don't want Mickey Rourke to be upset with the service. We'd love him to come back. Is there any way we can make it up to him and have him come in and the meal would be on us? Well, they're going to know we're not Mickey Rourke, right? So I would say, hey, listen, he's Mickey Rourke. He'll come back eventually. When he does come back, there's no way he's going to let you give him some coupons or some kind of free meal. Like, that's just not going to happen. But I tell you what, a couple of the guys who work for him, there's this guy, Steven, him and his buddy have done, some really, really nice work around the land this past week. What if you entertain them? And I'll tell Mickey about that. That'll go a long way. Mickey really would appreciate if you take care of his guys. And they would say, hey, no problem. What's his name? And I said, Steven Handsetter. And then we would wait a little bit longer and then show up at the restaurant and be like, yeah, Tanner said, my name's Steven Handsetter. Tanner said I could come by where there's a meal gratis, I guess, something. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. And then they would, oh yeah, we're going to take care of you. Have a seat. And then it would be a free meal. And we did that. Man, there was one summer we might have done it 5 nights a week. I mean,
and was it Mickey Rourke every time?
Every time. And here's why.
Consistent.
It's night. Well, yes, and here's why. No one's never not recognized the name Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
But not everyone was going to remember what he looked like. And this was in the era where his appearance was changing, because he used to be a leading man. He was one of the guys, and now you look at him and not so much so.
Right.
But this was well before his resurgence in the wrestler,
right?
Where now people know what he looks like again. So this was that window where you knew the name, but you might not have really known what he looked like. And so it was the perfect name. And how we came up with him is we eventually all got, 3 or 4 of us got jobs at a moving and storage company called Load, Lock and Roll. And Mickey Rourke had the biggest storage vault that we had. He had one of the first ever Schwinn bicycles produced, like that Schwinn ever made. He had that. And I remember we had to open up his vault one day and that bicycle was in there. And I took a bike ride around Hollywood. The first Schwinn bicycles ever made.
Okay, so in this time, all these crazy times, we'll fast forward a little bit, but you're managing or you're running your cousin's band, right? In case you have to go on the road. How does that lead to freaking touring with Poison?
Well, I toured that whole time I lived in LA. Whenever my cousin's band would go on tour, I was their tour manager. I handled merchandise. No sooner did I make plans to move to LA. They were on Atlantic Records, on MTV, all this shit. But no sooner did I make plans to move, they got dropped. And Atlantic no longer wanted to worry about, Skid Row and this new band, Tough. They were now focused on Stone Temple Pilots. And so there was this whole change kind of coming. And so
the Nirvana grunge change, was that?
Yeah. Change of the guard.
Yeah. And so the Poison tour, we're really jumping way ahead, but how we get there is, so my cousin's band breaks up and then he does a solo project for a while. And then he kind of was doing some other odds and ends. And then he discovered this cool band, Banes of Jenna, from Sweden. And they came over to Los Angeles, and he met him at the Whiskey, and he really liked them. He watched their show. They were kind of rough around the edges. They were young at that time. I think they might have even been 18, 18, 19, and 20.
Oh, yeah.
But they were heading home to Sweden, and my cousin met him the next day. And before they went home, he took him over to Gilby Clarke's house, who was the guitar player that replaced Izzy Stradlin in Guns N' Roses.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so they went to Gilby's and they recorded like 4 or 5 songs. And then my cousin made a deal to manage Veins of Jenna, and eventually they got their visas and they came back to live in LA to be a band. And they went on a couple tours, and then my cousin worked his magic and he got them opening up on the Poison tour. And how that came about was Bam Margera, who was first famous for Jackass, but then he had Viva La Band on VH1. And so Bam loves Scandinavian bands. And so he literally was driving like a Lamborghini down Sunset Boulevard, and he saw these 4 kids that were all just decked out, looking like they looked like Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction.
Yeah.
That's how they dressed. Not full glam. They were sort of street. They were kind of sleazy, and they're walking down, the 4 of them are walking down Sunset Boulevard, and he flipped the U-turn right there on the street and went and talked to him. And then he met up with them at some show at the House of Blues, and Bam said, I have my own record label. I want to sign you guys and put your record out. So my cousin ends up working out a deal with Bam, and Veins of Jenna gets on Bam's label. And then Poison agrees to have Veins of Jenna come out and be the opening band. So it's Veins of Jenna, Rat, and Poison.
Yeah.
And the caveat was Poison wanted Bam to come to at least 4 shows on the tour. And when he came, he would come out on stage and introduce Poison. And their thought was, he's young and hip and cool kids like Bam. Yeah. If we shoot a bunch of photos and video clips of Bam introducing us, that in and of itself constitutes this cool guy thinks we're cool. Even though Bam didn't like, he just knew getting in front of all those tens of thousands of people every night was going to favor his band. And so I had been writing and producing television shows, and then one thing led to another. I wasn't working on a show, and the summer was coming, and I wasn't going to have a show that summer of 2007. And so I was talking to my cousin, and I said, I guess I should just go on the Poison tour. And he was like, wait, you go? Because I didn't think he would want to do that anymore with those guys, And I said, well, I'm not doing anything else, and it'll put some scratch in my pocket. So I spent that summer looking after Veins of Jenna on the Poison tour.
Fuck, that's nuts.
Right on.
So what happened with Bret Michaels and Bam Margera? You have a story.
Yeah. So Jason might know this or have heard this. So the 4 guys in Poison at this point, and still to this day, they don't talk. Like, they don't really, they're not friends. They don't hang out. And so when we would get to the venue, the semis and the tour buses, they were all parked and configured so that the 4 members of Poison could go on and off their bus and in and out of the venue to where their dressing rooms were separated from one another.
They never had to see each other.
On and off, they would never see one another till they got on stage.
Yeah.
So the first time that Bam comes to a show is Reading, Pennsylvania. And Bam isn't a planner, and he's not a guy with a lot of details. So all I get on my cell phone is a text message from Bam's day-to-day manager saying, Bam's on the way, make sure he gets in. Is he on the way right now? When is he arriving? Is he by himself?
Is he hailed out?
Not even noon. Is he coming later? Are there more than one car? Is he bringing that whole crazy crew from the house? Like, how many people? And I text back asking, and no response. It's just make sure he gets in, and he needs to be able to park by the buses. Well, Brett might be the face of Poison, but Bobby Dahl, the bass player, is he's the businessman. He's the main guy. And
really?
He's the one that
I did not know that.
Yeah, and he's the one that I'm reporting to. He's the one who arranged for the band to be on the tour. But right before I got that text, Bobby's he's very regimented. So he gets up at the same time every day, and he leaves with the runner at the venue at the same time every day to go to Starbucks and he sits there and he has the coffee there and he doesn't want to be bothered and comes back. Well, he leaves. And in the time that he leaves to go to Starbucks and I now cannot get a hold of him is when I get the text message and I need to make sure Bam gets in. And my pass and me, I don't have the clout to go tell security, hey, let that guy in, even if they recognize him. You know, I can't give him that.
Yeah.
I have to get that pass from Poison, but I know I need to get it from Bobby, but he's gone and he won't answer the phone. I'm texting him every which way to get a hold of him. I couldn't get a hold of him. So I had no choice but to go to this woman who handles all the passes and say, hey, I need a parking pass. One of our guys from the label is coming in. And she wanted to know who, because everyone knew, man, this shitty band from Sweden's been on the road for a couple of weeks and there's been no band Margera. And they know he lives nearby. So she realizes it's Bam. Well, not only do the Poison guys not talk, Brett and Bobby are the two big ones. They're the two that really butt heads. And so the whole crew is divided in half. You're a Bobby guy or you're a Brett guy.
Oh, shit.
And the woman who handled the passes was a Brett guy. And so I didn't want to out and out tell her anything because I knew she would just turn around and tell Brett. So there's dude, it's total anxiety. It's a big headache. Every day it's something like this. So I got to get this pass. And she plays it off like, oh, trust me, you're in the opening band. There's nothing that's going to go on here that we don't already know before you. I know Bam's coming. It's all taken care of. So rather than even give me the pass, she plays it off like, don't worry. And so they radio to the security guy to let him in. Well, sure enough, Bam in his Lamborghini comes ripping in right ahead of the SUV that has Bobby Dahl. And so as soon as it parks, Brett comes off his bus and he's now talking to Bam. And Brett has Bam go up on his bus as Bobby is getting out of the SUV. And he points to me and said, come with me. Oh, fuck. And he was mean in business. And we're going down this hall and I felt like, when you're at maybe the neighbor's house and your kid acts up. So you got you're gonna walk them home, and you know how you're a grown man, you're walking fast, and the little kid's hustling to keep up, and and the whole way they're trying to say but dad, the other guy, but dad, that's what it felt like all the way down this hallway. And I turn around and I look and I thought, oh my God, his production office is nowhere near anyone. He's gonna murder me.
Yeah.
And no one is going to hear it happen.
No one's going to know.
And so as soon as we get into the dressing room, he turned around, man, and in one move, he had his hand around my throat with his thumb right here, pushed up against my Adam's apple, and he had me up against the wall and pushing upward. And so the only thing keeping me from hanging is my tippy toes are on the concrete.
They could still touch.
Barely. He's pushing my Adam's apple in, and he's got a pen in his hand. He's holding a pen. Yeah. And I'll never, ever forget when he said, don't you ever take information out of my hands like that again. Don't ever do it. I've been going round and round with people all morning about how to handle Bam when he got here. And then you went and let that bald fucker know, that's Brett, that Bam was coming. And now, instead of me handling everything, he's on that guy's bus. And then he held the pen up to my face. And he
was
said,
gonna Joe Pesci ya.
Yeah.
If you ever do that to me again, I'm gonna stab your fucking eyeballs out.
Yeah.
Wow. So, talking about being in the production office and, a little bit scared for your life, I'm going to shift to your PBR days. A few of our guests, we always seem to circle around to Cody Lambert and the way Cody likes to intimidate and, maneuver around the locker, not the locker room, but the hallways a bit and in the arena. Tell us about the first time you interviewed Cody Lambert.
Yeah, well, I won't ever forget it. It was it was July 3rd, 2000.
He's got the date.
I remember, because I had started at the PBR in January, and one thing leads to another. I had been told by a couple of people in the office, like, man, be careful about getting in and around Cody. He's very surly. You really don't have a rodeo background or any of this, blah, blah, blah. You don't want a target on your back. Just get yourself established. Well, by the time I got to July, I knew I had a conversation with the guy who hired me and was the editor at the time, Jeff Johnstone. And I said, Jeff, today's the day. And he goes, today's the day what? I said, today's the day I'm going to interview Cody Lambert. And he said, you are? You set up an interview? I said, no, I'm going to call him. I was around long enough at that point. I said, okay, the guy knows that I'm writing stories. And I said, he has to think one of two things about me. And Jeff goes, what's that? And I said, he knows that I know enough that he's the bull guy and I should be getting quotes about these bulls from him and that I need to do bull stories.
Yeah.
And I said, so in his mind, I either have to be too stupid to know that I should interview him, which I don't want him to think, or he thinks I'm too much of a pussy to ask him a question.
Yeah.
I don't want him to think that either. So I said, I'm going to gain his respect. I'm going to call him up. I'm going to interview him. And so a bunch of people are like, oh man, we want to be there when you do it. And they're all trying to intimidate me and get me nervous.
Yeah.
But his nephew pulls me off to the side and said, I'm going to give you one real piece of advice. He's not going to recognize your number. No way he answers. So just leave a good message. Don't come off. Just don't come off like a wiener. I'm like, okay.
Like a wiener.
I'm like, all right. So I think about it for a while. And I go to
lunch. You're thinking about the message, you got to leave. That's all you got to. Yeah.
I'm thinking about the message. I go to lunch. I don't have it scripted out, but I got it in I know what I'm going to say. So I'm ready to leave a message. Phone's ringing. It's ringing. I'm thinking, man, does this guy got a voicemail? When's the voicemail going to come on? And then you start thinking to yourself, man, it just keeps ringing. If he doesn't have a voicemail and he's like just sitting there not picking it up, is he going to get pissed at like, when's this guy?
Yeah, no shit.
So finally I tell myself I'm going to let it ring 2 more times and then I'm hanging up. And it rings once and now it's ringing the second time, and I'm telling myself when the ring stops, I'm hanging up because I'm trying to prolong, thinking he's gonna.
Yeah.
Sure enough, right as that ring is ending, I hear a fairly surly, grumpy hello. It wasn't a very inviting hello.
Yeah, yeah.
And
what
not only was that intimidating, but the fact that he now answered and the only thing I had prepared was my message, and I couldn't figure out my message wasn't going to translate. And so out of my mouth comes, Cody? Yep. And then I'm pausing, and I said, Cody Lambert? He goes, well, if you're dialing Cody Lambert's number and you say, is this Cody? And I say, yes. What other fucking Cody could it be?
That's gold.
And now I'm just calling for time. Like, how do I? So I'm thinking I've got to introduce myself properly and tell them what I want. So I'm blowing through all this, and I know it's got to sound bad. And in all that, I say, I got a story I'm working on. I want to ask you a couple questions. And so when I finally stop talking, he says, yeah. I'm like, yeah, what? He goes, well, you said you were calling with 2 questions. Give me the question.
Your fucking question.
And so I throw out my question, and I can tell as I'm saying it that it didn't come out right. I've screwed it up. And when I get to the end of it, I'm thinking, I screwed it up. And I realize it's dead air. It's silent. There's nothing. And I wonder, did I get disconnected? Did he hang up?
Did he hang up on me? Yeah.
So I said, Cody? He goes, yeah. Oh, maybe we have a bad connection. Did you? I can tell you my question again. He goes, no. I heard it. Okay. And there's more silence. And I said, and he goes, and what's your next question? And I said, oh, you want both questions and then you'll answer that? I just, however you like it. And he goes, no, the first question was pretty fucking stupid. And I'm hoping this one's worth answering.
Oh, no.
And so now I take a deep breath. And finally I say, hey, man, a bunch of people got me all jacked up that you weren't going to be an easy interview. I made myself nervous about something stupid, talking to somebody, like,
which you've done how many times before Cody Lambert have you interviewed somebody, like,
dude, I had written like 10,000 articles by that point.
Right.
Yeah. And so I basically call it out on the carpet and call myself. I said, and so I don't know why, but I let myself get rattled, and I said, yeah, the first question, what I meant to say was, and then I restated it, and he goes, now that's a question worth my answer. And then the next thing I know, we talked for an hour on the phone, and little by little, maybe not that day, but little by little, in pretty short order, he became like an uncle to me. And so much so that less than a year later, the Friday after Memorial Weekend in 2009, and Memorial Weekend for you Canadians is the end of May.
Mm-hmm. I knew that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Friday, my stepdad didn't have a stroke, but it was very similar to a stroke, and then they discovered a brain tumor. But from that very day when Cody found out about it, from that day until my stepdad died on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I was either with Cody at an event and he would ask me, or he would text me, or he would call me on the phone. And his question would always be, he had 2 questions. He would say, any news with your dad? So he didn't want to say, how is your dad? Any news? Yeah. So you could just get away with nothing new. You didn't have to
go into it.
Go into it. And then he would say, but more importantly, have you talked to your mom?
Oh, yeah.
And then remind me, your mom needs you right now. And so for him to have done that, him and Ty both, during that window of time, I'm indebted to them forever.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
well, you were a fixture, Keith. Yeah, I have to, a lot of, the PBR has grown leaps and bounds in 28 years. It really has. And, you know, you're one of the architects with that, with what you did. And I firmly believe that. I have always enjoyed our relationship, always enjoyed, you know, what you wrote, and you made the sport better. And when you tell a story like that, it just cements what I'm saying, because you got the, you know, two of the hardest asses going, and Ty and Cody, you know, and you know, you had to deal with it.
No shit. To the PBR side. So you live that life, like Jason said, all the people that you've interviewed. Coming over to the PBR, you wrote the book, the official guide to the toughest sport on dirt, correct?
Yeah.
So as Jason said, very influential in all the sport. There wasn't any of that stuff going on, writing and that sort of job. You came in, kind of changed it all, made it go more mainstream, really, and had way more articles and interviews, and helped them get off the ground in that sense. But what's a memory that you have of your PBR days that stands out above the others, whether it's a person, an incident, a ride, or what's something that stands out for you now looking back that you're not with the PBR, that you'll always remember?
I don't, watching Guilherme win the world title after 3 years of being in second place, and the true raw emotion.
Yeah.
Watching Chris Shivers retire.
Oh yeah.
Because this is and he acts like he is a tough guy, not acts. This is it's a tough dude. It's pretty notorious what a tough guy he is. Absolutely. But he always tried to carry that over, that he was this tough guy emotionally. And so to see that he actually had an emotion, to see that he could cry.
Yeah.
Chris Shivers can cry. Getting the call that Kent Cox was dead. I was at a movie theater when I got the call about Ty.
Yep.
Those are, I remember I was at a movie theater, man. I'm in the lobby, just sitting on one of those padded benches, leaning up against the wall, and you break down and cry, and no one can figure out why,
what's going on or why. Yeah.
There are those things. I remember watching Paulo Crimber break his neck for the second time on the second consecutive bull. He broke his neck, recovered, and 90 whatever days later he was riding again and broke his neck on the first bull back. And on that, I didn't see the first one, I saw the second one, and knowing, like, right then, I just remember saying out loud, like, wow,
fuck,
his career's over. His career's over. Yeah. And I remember somebody telling me, you can't say that. You don't know that. He's a bull rider. And I thought, no, this is, and it turned out not to be. For a while, Yeah. But I remember that moment. Like, I remember that because that was 2008. And for me, that was that was the moment I realized, for me, we talk about it being the toughest sport, but it's not a saying. It's not a slogan. It is. And so when you see that, or when you see McKinnon Wimberley in Anaheim, just man, that it's a reminder that it's for real. You guys can say what you will about me, and I have my own thoughts of what I may have been able to bring to the PBR, but ultimately, at the end of the day, whether you're Randy Bernard or Jim Hayworth, and I think both of those guys, there's been 4 CEOs. I think all 4 of them really deep down understand, and I hope all the people who work in the office would understand. We don't do what we do if it's not for a bull rider.
Hell yeah.
I mean, and the contractors can raise all the bulls they want, and they are some kick-ass bulls out there, but they don't get to do there's no reason to do what they do. At the end of the day, it's all about bull riders.
Yep. Yeah, we talked about that with
They're the
Cooper.
most important part of the puzzle.
We talked about that with Cooper on the last podcast, is that, yeah, you're not going to, especially in today's day and age, with how hard all these bulls buck, even the guys in the top 35, there's probably 10 of them that can stay on these bulls day in and day out. You can't just go down the road and find a new Cooper Davis or a new Jess Lockwood. They're the whole backbone of the sport.
I will admit, I made a mistake once, and luckily my mistake, only one person heard it, and he pushed me against the wall. So Reese Cates and we're buddies. Like, his rookie year was 2008 when I got there, and I helped ghostwrite it. It was his words. Like, he had a blog that year documenting his rookie season. And basically what it is once a week I would have a phone conversation with him. We'd talk about a topic, and then I would just let him riff on that topic. Yeah. And I would transcribe it, and then that would get posted as a blog. We're close. Like, we really admire one another, but we were having a conversation, and different names were coming up, and I'll be, it is what it is. The name that I referenced was Bart Miller. Somehow, I can't remember why, but the Bart Miller's name came up, and I scoffed and said, man, from what I can tell, guy can't even stay on a stick horse. Yeah. And
wrong thing to say.
He pushed me up against a wall, and he just had a look in his face. He wasn't mean. I wasn't afraid, but I knew, like, he was just like, you can't say that. You can never say that. Yeah. And that was it was an important lesson to learn. Not that I needed to learn a lot, but like, even the guy way down, it doesn't, like, it reaffirmed in that moment. Yeah, it's about bull riders, and you can't say that about any of them, because every bull rider that's willing to nod his head and can get into PBR and is good enough to get there, we need every one of you in order to have sport. And so without Bart Miller or Cooper Davis, I don't have anything to write about.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. In 2014 was my rookie year, and you were there, but you were on your way out. Did you bring in, so for everybody that maybe isn't familiar with your work, KRC, Justin Falesko now, who works for the PBR, kind of does what you did at that time. And were you influential in bringing him in, or were you wanting out, or were you?
No, I'm not leaving at this point. I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. And so we end up, we look at Falesko's resume, and it was by a mile, it was better than everybody else's. Okay. Like, I looked at his resume and I said, his resume is to hockey and college sports what mine was to music before coming to the PBR. Like, I looked at it, and there was a part of me that thought, man, what if he comes in and like, I'm Magic Johnson and he's Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan taking my shit. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying I am Magic Johnson or he's Michael, but to make that comparison, like, what if? Yeah. What if I'm Justin McBride and he's JB Mooney? Now I'm JB Mooney, all broke down and old and all huffy and gruffy, and he's Jess Lockwood. You know, like, that's in my mind. I never said to anybody, I was a little nervous, and so but I knew he was the one we had to hide. Like, I knew it. He was really impressive. Yeah. And when we got to the end of the conversation, I asked the question, and I know it's a question you're not supposed to ask in an interview, but I got to be honest, I don't understand why you're not supposed to ask it. I said to him, I said, hey man, before we hang up, I want to ask. I can't tell. I mean, I kind of have an idea from a resume, but I don't know for sure. I said, how old are you? And I could tell he was really taken aback by it, because again, maybe I would understand why you're not supposed to be asked that if someone were to ask me, how old are you?
Yeah.
But I asked him how old he was. And I want to say he said 22. He might have only been 21. 21.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah,
22.
he was
young. He was young. And so he's kind of hedging as he says his age. And I gave him a compliment. I said, hey man, no matter what happens, I just want you to know you're going to have a great career.
Yeah.
And then I said, we'll talk later. And I hung up. And then I called Dave. And Dave goes, what do you think? And I said, well, just so you don't get all upset with me, he's the guy to hire. I'm telling you now, yes. He's the guy you should hire him, and I'll make plans to come to Pueblo and we'll spend a couple of days together, blah, blah, blah. He's the guy to hire. And I said, but I do want to point out, if this comes to play, I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing in his resume, and there's nothing from the conversation I had with him that says he wants to be an editor. He wants to be me. Not me.
Yeah.
But
your job. Yeah.
He wants that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't, and I said, and he wants to do it for hockey, much like I wanted to do it for Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
I said, he's a writer. He's a numbers guy. He's a go to the game. Like he's going to take this job and it is going to suck having to edit someone else's work.
Yeah.
He's going to hate it. He's going to grow to hate it. And sure enough, not then, but enough years have gone by and we're friends and we talk and yeah, he was eager. He was a hustler. And you could tell from the moment he got behind the wheel, man, it was pedal to the metal.
You can even see that with him behind the mic on the ride pass. Like he just can't wait to get talking. And like you said, he's a numbers guy. He knows what's going on. Like analytics. Like he would be great in hockey. Anybody that follows you on social or Facebook knows what you've been doing, your latest project, Black Cowboys of Rodeo, the unsung heroes from Harlem to Hollywood and the American West. Kind of interesting how you met Murtis Dykeman. They're, one of the greatest cowboys in the world. Really bridged that relationship for you, eh?
Yeah, Ty Murray, is the one who told me about him and introduced me to him, and so I met Murtis about 10 years, a little over 10 years ago now. Yep. And I remember the first time I met him and had a conversation, I left the conversation saying to myself, I'm going to write a biography about that guy. But it took me 5-6 years to build up the confidence to realize that as much as I want to go along, as much as I like writing, digging really deep into somebody, to really sit down and say you're writing a book.
Yeah, full book. Yeah.
I had to. It took a little bit to get the confidence that I could do it, and in that time, I was having conversations with him, and I went and spent a couple days with Larry Mahan talking about his relationship with Murtis. But every time I would talk to Murtis, he would say, "Oh, have you spoke to Bailey's Prairie Kid?" And I said, "No, I don't even know who that is, but I love that name. I should talk to him." Yeah. "What about my buddy Cash?" I said, "Cash? Who's Cash?" He goes, "Oh, he was my business partner. We were the first 2 African Americans to own a dance hall in Houston." And so then I was like, ooh, I better talk to Harold Cash.
Yeah.
And then one thing led to another, and you just, before you know it, you spend over 2 years from coast to coast interviewing Black Cowboys. And that's when I knew, if I'm only going to have an opportunity to write one book about Black Cowboys, it might be more, but if I only have one and I only write about Murtis, then the rest of the world, if they come across that book, might think he's the anomaly.
Yeah.
When in fact, there are a whole bunch of
many
incredible people. Your dad traveled and worked with, Dwayne Hargo Sr., a Black bullfighter from San Bernardino, California. And so these stories, like, we know that Charlie Sampson comes from Watts, but you think he's the only one. And then I go there and I find out there's at least 70 years of history of Black Cowboys from Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And it's 100, maybe over 1,000 of them by now. And then, New York City and New Jersey and Connecticut and Massachusetts, there was a whole, there was just a whole subculture of Black Cowboys on the East Coast from the 50s all the way through the 80s into the 90s. You know?
When is this book? When's it come out, or is it finished, or where are you at with it?
It's finished. I wrote it. It's finished, and Danny Glover, the actor, he wrote the foreword for it. Yeah. And pre-sales begin in May, and then the book will be available wherever books are sold to actually put in your hand and start reading. November 1st, which will be in time for the PBR World Finals, the NFR, Christmas, nice. And then in January is the IFR. So,
oh, good for you. Good planning.
Yeah.
All these people who thought I was a Johnny come lately in 2008 when I showed up in January, you're wrong. I've been around rodeo. As much as everyone thinks I'm a bull riding guy, I was around rodeo beginning in 2001, 2002, when I damn near lived with the Steiner family. I want to get that out there.
Yeah.
Well, never really talked about that anywhere.
Yeah, share that one.
We're going to, because Keith, I think we're going to take you up on your Bobby Steiner on the show here on the NFP podcast.
And I would love to help get him on here with you.
For 100%. Like,
I call him. I mean, he's a mentor. He just he's everything. I told you last week. I said, there's times. I mean, I call him when I have a purpose. But when I get him on the phone, I know that you're going to hang up feeling good about yourself. You're going to feel as good about yourself as you've ever felt. I've never met such a positive person, and just a family that, well, I mean, there's a reason why their ranch is XS, and it's to the top. It's the best. They don't settle. There's a movie producer named Brian Grazer who I once heard say, if you ever hear someone say it's good enough is code for pretty shitty. And it's never just good enough for the Steiners. It's always, what does it take to be the best?
How did you get intertwined with them? How did you get intertwined with that family?
Oh, so what happened is all the way back in 2001, you guys all know, obviously, right now you guys know Rocker. Everyone's watching Rocker on
social media, Instagram, wherever. Yeah.
And before that, it was, Sid when he was winning his world title, and the cornrows and the fancy shirts and all that. And so Bobby has two sons. Sid is the younger one, and then a couple of years older than him is Tommy Shane. And Tommy Shane was signed to RCA Nashville and had just recorded his debut album. And I got a call from RCA Nashville, and I was still living in LA. And they said, man, we got this new artist, and it's a country record, and it's kind of, it's got a little cross between some traditional stuff in there. He's got a Randy Travis duet, but it'll fit in that Kenny Chesney, Keith Urban vein as well.
Yeah.
But whenever we talk to him, like, he's never listening to country music. His two favorite bands are Metallica and Eminem. And so of all the writers we know who cover country music, you're the only guy like that's all rock and roll, you know? And I had long hair at that time and everything. And so they said, we think you would be the perfect guy, because he also wants to do the interview for his publicity bio in LA at the Rainbow. And so you guys are always talking about the Rainbow, and Tommy Shane, you know, had seen the rain. Everyone obviously saw it in the Guns N' Roses video, November Rain.
Yeah.
And so I agreed to write the bio, and they said him and his manager are going to fly to LA, and, you know, on Friday night, meet him at the Rainbow at 7:00. And by the way, this doesn't, the publicist didn't know really what it meant. And they said, Tommy and his manager said, you'll know what they mean. But is there any way you can get them to where you guys can sit in the Guns N' Roses booth? And I was like, well, there's not a Guns N' Roses booth. But then I realized they want to sit in the booth that they were sitting in during the video. Yeah. So I call ahead, and they don't really take that reservations like that, unless, of course, a Guns N' Roses guy were to call or whatever. But, you know, one thing leads to another. And I said, you know what, I'll just go early. So I go there knowing, because this isn't a place where people show up. Like, there's an afternoon crowd, but like, you don't go out at night and then hang out in the dining room before the sun goes down, you know. Yeah. That's not rock and roll. So I go there before the sun goes down, and I say, hey, I'm going to be joined by a large party. I need that table. And since that's first come, first serve, they give me the table. I say, now it's going to be a couple hours. Now, and I also know there's only 2 people coming, not enough for this whole table to be filled. But anyway, Tommy and his manager show up, and I do the interview, and then we got along, man. I don't know how to put, like, it was, you know, some people ask, how in the world did you and Ty Murray become buddies? Like, what is it about you? Because when you think of Ty Murray, the king of the Cowboys, man, you don't think about a guy who was excited that I have a picture of me typing on my typewriter for the first time as an 8-year-old. Like, the first time I ever sat at a typewriter, I have that picture. I have the picture of me opening it up Christmas morning. I have the picture of me sitting at it and typing for the first time. Like, that guy is going to be the king of the Cowboys, good friend. Yeah. Just doesn't, you know. And the same would probably hold true with me and like the Steiners. But for whatever reason, Tommy and his manager and myself, we got along, man. I don't know how. I don't know what it was. I don't know. But we got along, and we had a great time. And then a few months later, the record was out, and right before it was coming out, Tommy Shane calls me, and we're talking, and he said, I'm going to go on a radio tour. He said, I'm going to go out on a bus, and it's just going to be me and my manager, and we're going to drive from city to city every day, visiting radio stations. And I got to be at one for the morning and go to another one and take them out to lunch and go on the afternoon show, and then drive all night to another city and visit more radio stations. And you're just in a different town every day. No shows, none of that. You're just visiting radio stations and going to bars at night before leaving town.
Yeah.
And so Tommy said, this does not sound like fun. I need more than just Adrian and I on the bus. Why don't you come out? And I said, man, I'm a freelance writer. And at that time I had like 12 or 15 publications. He goes, you come out, and whenever you need to write, the back lounge area, he goes, instead of it being a lounge, man, I'll have him pop a table in there and you work on your articles. Let's go on the road. So I went with him for a couple weeks.
Let's go.
So I flew out to Texas
and do all that, and then the tour is gonna start. And he calls me again, and he starts sending me tour dates and saying, "Hey, this is when the tour starts." And I went, "Whoa!" I go, "Tommy, you're not a rapper. You can't have a posse. The only guys that can go on your bus, they have to work for you." I said, "I would love to go on tour. I haven't been on tour in a while. This was well before the Poison tour. So my Tough tour stuff, it had been a while." And so Tommy was going to be out in a really nice Prevost bus. He was going to be opening up for Brad Paisley. I mean, it was going to be a cool tour. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, I thought it had to be a lot less anxiety than like what a rock and roll tour with Tough was. You know what I mean? I thought it's going to be a little more laid back. Yeah, like, I want to go do this. And I'm old enough now. I did it. And then I was away from touring. I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to enjoy being on the road. I'm going to get the most out. I'm going to make it work for me.
Yep.
As much as I'm going to do whatever he needs. But I told him, I said, I can't just go out as your buddy. I got to have a job. And so they found a job for me, and I spent the better part of now a country tour is different than rock and roll. Country, you go out for 2 or 3 days, you're home for 4 days, you go out for 2 days, you're home for 3 days, you're out for 5,
okay,
you're home for 2 weeks. You're in and out because of Nashville being so centrally located. They can move you back and forth. When you're out in LA, you go out and you swing around the US and back. Yeah. So that's how I got on the road. And then it started to get to where, rather than come to Nashville when we would have those days off, more and more, I just started going to Austin and hanging out with the Steiner family. And then Tommy's house was like, it wasn't the Los Angeles house that I moved into, by no means, because he was the only one living there. But he knew how to have a good time, and he knew how to invite over people who knew how to have a good time. And
yeah.
But man, we were having a good time every night. So after a while, we'd go out to have like barbecue and have the most incredible steaks I've ever had out at Bobby and Jolene's house. And then everybody would, climb into Tommy's Hummer to head back into town. And I would ask Bobby, "Hey, mind if I just hang out here tonight?" And he'd be like, "Oh, you're tired. You need a good night's sleep."
Yeah, like a night off.
Yeah. So then I would just stay out at their house, and their house was way out in Bastrop. So if you made the choice to stay, you were out. You were out of the mix. But I enjoyed, because that allowed me to have just some fascinating conversations with Bobby. And I really, really, I admire that. I admire the whole family. I absolutely admire the whole family. But Bobby is, man, he's one of the most incredible motivators, and he's never gone and like tried to capitalize on it. He just, like, if you're fortunate enough to know him, you're going to be that much better for knowing who he is. It just, that's like, cool. Yeah, that's
small world, how it all kind of tied in together, though. Hey, but that was before your PBR career, and
way before. Yeah,
people that I look up to, and I've been in the rodeo world my whole life, never met them. Right, you through different avenues somehow get intertwined with one of the most famous rodeos or families in rodeo, right? Yeah. So you never know what road.
It was fun. when Sid came to those PBR events, I remember the fourth one, because he came.
Well, let's back this up, Keith. So Tanner knows. Keith suggested to Randy about getting Sid to come.
They had the team shootouts on ESPN2, and there was a meeting about, man, who are we going to get to do the behind the shoots interviews? Well, I was so new and naive. I didn't know that no one recommends anything. At that time, Randy says, here's what we need. What do you think? And you wait till he says something, and then everyone jumps on that and says, yeah. That's what we're doing. Well, I was a dick, I guess. I don't know. I said, hey, what about Sid Steiner? I said, before I came here and I was writing and producing some television shows, I shot a pilot with the Steiner brothers and Sid was really good. Yeah. And Randy was kind of sat up and he said, wow, that's not a half bad idea. And I remember JW Hart's comment was, I hope he at least wears a shirt. Like take his shirt off and got muscles and all tattoos. Oh yeah. And so that's how they ended up hiring Sid to do the behind the shoots interviews for the 4 shootouts. And the 4th one was in Pueblo. And when the shootout was over, or the team shootout, when that was over, there was some kind of big after party. And it was at the fairgrounds. And so there's this fairground building. And when you go in the building, you had to have a ticket to get in. Even if you had your PVR pass or whatever, there was a ticket to get into this dinner. And so we went to go turn the tickets in, and it was Sid, me, and Lindsay Rosser were walking in, the 3 of us together. And the ticket taker, he innocently just said this as he was tearing. He goes, oh, you guys are with the rodeo. To which I replied, no, the bull riding. And Sid punched me in the shoulder. Like, I thought I was going to get my shoulder operated. I mean, he wasn't being mean. He hit me in the shoulder. And I looked at him like, what? And he goes, 8 months, and you're already drinking the Kool-Aid?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Keith, there's one question that we ask everybody that comes on the podcast. This is obviously the NFP podcast. So what does hashtag NFP mean to you?
Well, I don't know what it means to me per se, but I know that I fit it. I want to say, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be bold and say, I'm the only person that either one of you know who's actually hung out at the Playboy Mansion.
That's true. That's good point.
I tell people about your hashtag all the time.
That's gold.
You know what's rewarding for me, Keith, is getting these young cool cats like Tanner on board. Like, he's keeping me young with this podcast, and he's been working with me with the agency and whatnot. He gets it. I didn't really make that hashtag up for it to trend. I was pissed off. That's why I did it. Yeah. So it's kind of cool how it's transpired into what it is today.
It's really I will see it as a badge of honor to wear it, really, to be honest with you.
All right, KRC, once again, we appreciate you coming on the show, the NFP podcast presented by 3D Entertainment.